Hi, and welcome to Beginner Python Games, offered to you by the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. My name is Scott Bartow, and tonight we're going to be talking about just a couple of beginner games. The first one is going to be the quiz game, and the second one will be the choose your own adventure game. So, first things first, you have to have downloaded Python, and you can go out to python.org and download the latest version of Python. It's totally safe to download to your computer, and with it, once you get your download, it will include the text editor that we're going to be using tonight, which is called IDLE, I-D-L-E. And if you look at the screen right now, I've brought up the Python shell. And you see in the upper left-hand corner, it's Python 3.61. That's the version I'm using. And it's the Python shell, which is basically the command line for Python. And if we want to create a brand new file in idle, you go into the Python shell, you click on File in the upper left-hand corner, click on New File. And that will bring up an idle session where we're going to be entering our programs in. Right. All right. So once you're in idle and you've opened up a new session, the first program that we're going to be writing tonight is going to be the quiz game. And I'm assuming that you've maybe used Python a little bit in the past, but even if you haven't, the things we're going to be covering tonight in these two games is going to be very basic information. I mean, basic beginner concepts in Python. So what we'll do is we're going to open our game up with a print statement. All right, actually, I'm going to start it with a comment. Now, in Python, the symbol that we use to write a comment or a note is the £, or a hashtag. And we'll just call it the quiz game. Right. Notice that it's when you put a comment into Python, into your Python program, it'll turn it red, because comments are not read by the computer when you execute the program. They're just there for the programmer to have notes on what their program is going to do. All right, so that's our first line in Python, the comment line. Now we're going to do a print. So we do the print command, open parenthesis, and we're just going to say welcome to my computer quiz. All right, and then closing parenthesis, and that's the print statement. So in Python, it's print, open parenthesis, and then you put the what you want to be printed out on the screen. In this case, welcome to my computer quiz is a string, so it has to be wrapped in double quotes, and you close it out with a closing parenthesis. All right. The next line, we're going to create a variable called playing space equals, and we're going to set the variable playing to actual user input. So we use the input command, parenthesis, and we're going to say, do you want to play? So we ask the user a question, do you want to play? And let's be a little specific. All right, so let's say enter yes. Let's say enter yes or no. And then close it out with parenthesis. I mean, double quote, sorry. Oops. The double quotes, and then close out the print statement, or yeah, the input statement with the closing parenthesis. All right, so we have the question, do you want to play? Enter yes or no. And then close out the string with the double quote here. And then we close out the input statement with a closing parenthesis. All right, hit enter. All right, so whatever the user enters in this input statement, whether they enter yes or no, is going to be loaded up into the variable that we created here called playing. All right, now we're going to use that variable, or the value of that variable, and we're going to say, now we're going to do a conditional statement in Python. So we'll do an if statement. If space playing equals, or playing, we're going to say dot lower, parenthesis. Oh, shoot. I have to get back to my Python session here. There we go. So if playing, the variable playing, dot lower, parenthesis, right? And lower basically is all it's doing is the method that says if I enter all capitals, yes, or all capitals, no, or if I enter a capital yes, lowercase es, it doesn't matter. It's going to interpret it as lowercase. So it allows the user to enter all kinds of the upper lowercase yes or no answers, and it treats it all as the same. Yes will be yes, no matter what case you use when you use dot lower. All right, so if lower is not equal to yes, and the way we do not equal is exclamation point equal sign. If it's not equal, I'm going to do double quotes, and we'll say yes, lowercase yes. All right. Then if it's not equal to yes, then we're just going to quit. And with an if statement in Python, you have to end it with a colon, hit enter, indented inside the if. We're just going to do the method quit, parenthesis, and that's it. All right, so what we've done here is we created an if statement, a conditional, which is saying if the value of playing, whatever the user put in as input, whether they put in yes or no, it's taking that value from playing, converting it to lowercase, and then comparing it to if it's not equal to yes, not equal to being an exclamation point equal sign. If it's not equal to lowercase yes, then we're going to quit. So if it's no, or if it's some numbers the user entered, or some, if they enter possibly, or the input of maybe, all those responses are going to quit the game. All right. So the only way they're going to continue with the game is if we have the word yes as input. All right. Okay. So now, next. All right. So since we've gotten past that condition, we're going to print up in parentheses, and we'll do a double quote. And we're going to say, okay, exclamation point, space, and we'll do let's play. Let's play, double quote, and parentheses. Okay, let's play. All right. And enter. Okay, so we got past that. So let's run our game right now. All right. So the way to run in Python is you can see that up here in the upper left-hand corner of our idle session, we have it says it's untitled. So this file, this program is untitled right now. We're going to change that. So the way to run your program is to click on, let's see, the fourth from the left option. We're going to click on the Run tab in the toolbar, and then click on the third option, Run Module. It brings up a pop-up window, save before run or check. So we have to save it. We haven't saved it yet. Click OK. And it'll bring up File Explorer in Windows. It'll bring up Finder in Mac. All right, so I will click here, and I'll do, let's do some, I'll just save it to my, I'll save it to a beginner Python folder. You can save it to whatever folder you want. All right. And now, okay, so now what we're going to do is, you see that the save as type is set to Python files. The file name, what we're going to call this is we're going to call it quiz game. All right, quiz game dot py. Py is the extension you use on all your Python files. So quizgame.py is what we're going to call it, call the file, and we're going to say save. It's running, and now it's going to ask us our first question, right? So we had created, in our Python, for our idle session, we created the variable playing. We had, and we assigned it a value of whatever the input was from the user, and the user is going to enter yes or no. All right, so if I go back to my Python shell session, command line is where the question gets answered, or it gets asked. Welcome to my computer quiz. And then it says, do you want to play? Enter yes or no. And I will enter yes. Okay, let's play. All right, and that's as far as we've gotten on the program so far. All right, but if I run this program again, so I go over here. Now in my idle session, if I do run module, it's already saved, right? It hadn't been changed, so it didn't have to be saved again. And it brings up in the Python shell, it brings up my computer quiz. Do you want to play, yes or no? So if I put no, and I can put capital NO, doesn't matter because I've got the lower method working. And if I put no and hit enter, it should quit out of the game. Program's still running. Do you want to kill it? Okay. And that's what it does. So it quit my game. Right. So we know that our conditional is working, right? If I put something other than yes, it quits the game. If I put yes, it comes down to this second print line and says, okay, let's play. All right. So that's how you, when you're developing a program, you want to write your program in chunks, like what we've done here, and then run it and test it and make sure there's no bugs. Because if you wait to the end of your program and then try and run it, chances are you might be a little bit overwhelmed with all the problems you run into. So it's just better to do it in piecemeal and just make sure you test out the conditions. Each of the anytime you have conditionals like this if right here, you have to test out the different conditions that you can run into. So I tested out yes, and then I tested out no. And if we wanted to run it again, you could test out entering something else like oh, there it is. What if I entered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Some bogus answer to the question, and see it's going to kill our program. So when you use the quit method like we are in our program right now, it'll bring up this pop-up window with a kill question mark. Your program's still running. Do you want to kill it? And you say yes. All right. So let's continue with our program. All right. So let's work on the first question. So our first question, what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called answer space equal sign, and we'll set it to a value of input. So we're using the input command again, and inside the parentheses for the input command is going to be our first question. All right, so what does so this is a computer quiz, so what does CPU stand, actually, what does HTML stand for? Question mark, double quotes, and closing parenthesis. All right, and hit enter. All right, so that's our variable answer, and we're asking the question, what does HTML stand for? All right, and then we're going to do, under that first question, we're going to do a conditional if answer equals, oh, we have to do lower because you never know what the user is going to enter. If answer dot lower, parenthesis, equals, sorry, I forgot to mention that in our first if statement. Keep doing that. Oh, the first if statement had not equal, so that was fine. But if you're doing a straight equal in Python, a straight equal in a conditional if, else if, or elif and else, you want to use equal equals. So 2 equal signs, not just one. So equal, double quotes, and if we put hypertext markup language, double quotes, and if it equals that, and then you have to close with an if statement with a with a colon. You hit enter and then indent it inside the if. If this is the case, then we're going to say print. And we'll just tell them incorrect. Exclamation point, double quote, and closing in parenthesis. All right. And now also, we want to up above, outside of this if statement, one thing I forgot to add was once we know the user is ready to play because they've answered yes up here, they want to play, then we print out, okay, let's play. I'll put a exclamation point for emphasis to get them excited. We're going to want to create a variable called soar. We want to make sure that we want to find out what their soar is. So soar is going to equal, and we're going to set the variable soar to 0. All right, and that's it. Python's really a very easy to understand language, computer language, because it's just the commands and the statements you write in Python are extremely readable, like English. All right. So down here in our if, so if they answer lower and they answer correctly, hypertext markup language is the correct answer for what does HTML stand for. We're going to print correct, but we're also going to add one to soar, to the variable soar. So soar, and if you just do, to add one, you can just do plus plus, and it'll add one to itself. All right, so right now we initialize the variable soar at 0, and down here we're adding 1 to it. So now, if they answered the first question correctly, they'll have a soar of 1. All right, so we come down here. Now, if they didn't answer correctly, right, so if they didn't answer it right there, we're just going to use an else to capture any other answers they might have entered in. And you have to end the else statement, just like an if or an elif, with a colon, hit enter, indented inside the else, we're going to print double quotes, incorrect, exclamation point, double quotes, and a closing parenthesis. All right, hit enter, backspace, enter. All right, so we have incorrect. And now we're just going to do a bunch more questions. All right. So what we can do is we can say, we can copy all this code. And I'll paste it down below. And we'll say, what does CPU stand for? All right, and we'll change our answer. And you see how everything's indented properly. When you have an if statement or an else statement, what you want to be executed when that condition is met has to be indented inside those statements. All right, so we'll change our answer here. Computer processing unit. All right, that'd be correct. We'll add 1 to the soar if they get that one correct. And we'll, if they don't get it correct, then we'll print incorrect. And we won't add 1 to the soar. Now we just come down here. Oops. Actually, I don't have to paste it in. I already have it copied. So copy it and paste it. I'll put another space in here. And in Python, you're allowed to have white space. You're allowed to have lines just of white space. It makes you, if you add them, like I've added them here, it just makes your game, your program so much more readable to another programmer or to yourself if you ever come back to it. All right, so let's have one more question. All right, so I would place, what does HTML stand for? And how about, what does RAM stand for? All I have to do is change my answer. So copying and pasting allow you to develop your code a lot quicker than typing everything in over and over and over again. So So what does RAM stand for? And then we're going to give our answer. The random access memory, right? Random access memory. Memory. Right, that's correct. All right. So let's go and run our program. Run module. It'll ask us to save it. So the pop-up window comes up, save before run or check, and we'll do OK. And we had saved our file, so it knows what file name to save to. All right, so here it gives me a syntax error pop-up window, invalid syntax. So if I click OK, it'll put the red line right by where the error's happening. All right, so it seems to be on the line with store ++. And the reason for that is because I coded it incorrectly. So store, it's not ++, but it's equal plus. Plus equal, sorry. Python is plus equal, space 1. All right. And now we have the same problem down below. So what I'll do is I'll copy that guy. Sorry, I was used to JavaScript, which is plus. We'll add 1 to the variable. All right, so +1. All right, now if we go and run it again, we should have no more syntax errors. Run module, click OK, and it's running. How do you want to play? Yes or no? Yes, I do. Okay, let's play. What does HTML stand for? Hypertext Markup Language. Enter. Oh, incorrect. Hypertext Markup Language. I wonder if I spelled that incorrectly. Hypertext Markup Language. So the answer, lower, hypertext markup language. Equals that, then it's correct, +1 else. I got that there. Hypertext markup language. All right, let's try it again. What does CPU stand for? All right, let me try that. Computer processing unit. Incorrect. It doesn't like something we're doing. Random. Oh, random access memory. Incorrect. All right, so everything's incorrect. Doesn't seem to like what I'm doing. If answer equals that. Oh, I see. Oh, it's making it lower. Got it. That's where the lower comes in. But that's what I'm using. Lower. So if answer, right? It's a variable dot lower. Parenthesis. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So I put the answer. I put the answers with the capitalizing the first letter of each word, and that is my problem. If you're going to use lower, it has to equal lowercase. Markup language. And computer processing. So the answers have to be in lowercase, being compared with the value that the user enters. The user can enter whatever case they want because we're using lower here to change it. All right. So now that we've changed those answers to be all lowercase, right? Lowercase, lowercase. All right, now it should work fine. So run module. Okay. You want to play the computer quiz game? Yes, I do. Okay, let's play. What does HTML stand for? Hyper text markup language. Correct. All right. CPU stand for computer processing unit. What does RAM stand for? Now RAM, I'm just gonna try and get it wrong. So it stands for RAM. Incorrect. All right. So we haven't fully tested out each condition, but it looks like our game's working correctly now. All right. So once again, when you're developing a program, you want to break it down into pieces, run it, test it, and then continue on. All right. So the last thing we have to do for this game is we have to tally up our score. All right. So we've been adding to our score. So let's just, after the 3 questions, then our game is over. So let's just do a couple of prints. So print C. And we'll do double quote, you got space, double quote, space, and then it uses a plus sign. You use a plus sign or a comma in Python for concatenation. So we're going to concatenate you got space the string with your actual score. All right, so we'll do string, and we're using the str method to convert a number into a string. And we're going to do the store, whatever the value of store is at the end of our game. And then space, and we'll concatenate with another plus sign, and then we'll do double quote, space, questions, correct. Exclamation point, and we'll do a double quote, and then close out the print. All right, so you got whatever your score was, questions, correct. And then we'll do a print, parenthesis, just for a print line. And then we'll do a print, parenthesis, and we'll do your percentage correct was space, double quotes, plus sign, and we're gonna do string, and we're gonna do score, right? Space divided by, which is the / space divided by. We have 3 questions in our game. The score divided by the number of questions, right? And then divided by that, we'll have to do with 2 parentheses here. Divided by that times 100 to give us our percentage. So your percentage correct was, and then we'll have the percent converted into a string, and that will be the end. So we have to close out the print with a closing parenthesis. I think that's it. All right, let's run it and try it. Run module. Okay. All right. Oh, here's our game down below. Sorry. And let me close out my Python session. Okay. And I'll run it again with a fresh session. There we are. Yes, I want to play. Which it must stand for. I'll say hypertext markup language. Hit enter. I got it correct. I'll do the next one wrong. And I'll do random. I'll test out random access memory. And right, hey, you got 2 questions correct. Your percentage correct was 66.66666. Which makes sense, right? I got 2 out of 3 correct, which is 66.6666%. All right, so that's our game. And that was our quiz game. So let's move on real fast to our Choose Your Adventure game. All right, so I can close out this. And you've got your quiz game file all saved out in that program. And now I'm going to come up in my idle session. I'm going to do file. I'm going to do new file. And here we're going to create a brand new game called Choose Your Own Adventure. All right, so let's start. All right, so first we're going to create a comment, right, with the hashtag. So choose your own. I'm going to capitalize this. It's going to be a title. Choose your own adventure game. All right. So first, we're going to create a variable called name. Name equals double quotes. Not double quotes. We're doing input, right? I'm going to let you input your name. Input parentheses, double quotes. What is your name? Question marks, double quotes, and closing parentheses. All right. So I have created a variable named name, and we're asking for the user's input to input a value of their name. All right. So now, we'll create a variable called answer, similar to like the last game. Answer equals, and what we'll say is input. Before we do that, oops, sorry. Blow this up. All right, so before we do that, let's just do a print statement saying print. Let's see, and we'll just say welcome. Oops. All right, so double quotes, welcome, space, double quotes, space, plus sign, name, space, plus sign. Double quotes. To your adventure. With a comma. All right, double quotes, and close out with a parenthesis. Actually, I'll do an exclamation point. And now we'll do a, oops, parenthesis goes on the outside of the double quotes. You see how it turns the screen gray? That basically is saying, hey, yep, you coded that statement, that print statement correctly. All right, so down below the print statement, so that we created the variable named answer, and we're going to give it input. So it's equal input, the user's input. So it's input parenthesis. And here it's like a pretty long question. All right, so you come to a river, you can walk around it, or here, or swim across. And we'll say enter. See if I can move this. Enter. What? Enter. Enter. Or swim. All right. Good job. Kind of far away. All right. Okay. Now we need a conditional, right? And we're just going to say if. Come on. Change this. So that's swim. Swim across. Walk around it or swim across. And to swim across. All right. So if answer equal double quotes swim double quotes, and then you have to finish the if with a colon, and then inside it we're going to print parenthesis quotes you swim across and were eaten by an alligator. Ouch. Not good. You made the wrong choice there. All right, so elif, all right, so you haven't seen an elif before, so else, it stands for else if. Elif, answer equal double quotes walk, double quotes colon, enter, then we're going to print double quotes, and we'll say you walked for many miles, ran out of water, and you lost the game. period, double quotes, and parentheses. All right, and enter. Else, colon, else what? Print, double quotes. Not a valid option. And I'll do double quotes and closing parentheses. All right. So there's our if, elif, and else statement. Answer equals walk, answer equals swim. Right. You come to a river, you can walk around it or swim across it. All right. All right. So, all right. But I got ahead of myself. So up here, after our welcome print, and I'm going to do a print after that. So print, parentheses, which will just give us an extra line. All right. So we'll do our welcome, your name to your adventure, and do a separate print line. And now here's what we'll do. Answer. All right, so we'll say answer equals input, double quotes, and we'll say you are on a dirt road, comma, it has come to an end, and you can go left or right. Double quotes and closing parentheses. Let's see how that works. All right, so you are on a dirt road. It has come to an end, and you go left or right. You can go left or right, enter left or right. All right, so here, all right, so here it's if answer equal double quote left, double quotes colon, right? And then we're going to do all this other stuff, right? All right. So all this stuff is going to be inside the first if. I don't know if that makes sense. So once we indent it, maybe that'll make sense. So if answer is left, so I turn left at the crossroads. All right. Then I'm going to do all this stuff. Then you come to a river, and you walk around it or swim. And then either one of these responses is going to make you lose. If you swim, you get eaten by an alligator. If you walk for miles, you run out of water, you die. Or else, it's not a valid option if you didn't enter swim or walk, right? You enter like toothpaste. And so that wouldn't be a valid option, all right? Now, if you don't choose to go left and you choose to go right, then I'm going to copy all this stuff, all right? So copy this, and we'll pop it down here. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. All right, so down here, we're going to say elif or else if, right? Elif, answer, instead of being left, they go right. All right, let's see what happens if you go right. So right must hold the key to some kind of answer. So now right, you come, instead of to a river, you come to a bridge. And at the bridge, it looks wobbly. Do you want to cross it or head back? Right, so. It looks wobbly. Let me spell wobbly, wobbly. Do you want to cross it or head back? Right, and then what options will we give it? We'll just have you answer cross or head back. Cross and back. How about that? Right? So answer cross or back. Let's see. Over here, here. All right, so all right, so if I go right, then I have that, and I come to a bridge. It looks wobbly. Do I want to go across it, or do I want to head back? And we'll say that's right. So we'll say if I want to go back, then it's going to say you go back and lose. So how about you go back and run into cannibals and get eaten. How about that? Else you cross and now now we'll just say this stuff. You cross the bridge and find gold on the other side and win. Exclamation points all around. All right. Otherwise, if you didn't choose, that's right, that's back. So if you didn't choose back or cross, then your else is going to be not a valid option, just like above. All right. Hit enter, and then tab back. So we have an if, we have an elif, and now we need an else. And this else is going to be else colon, and we're going to capture all else. So if they didn't enter left and they didn't enter back, if they didn't enter left or they didn't enter right, then else is going to capture any other invalid option. Print. Just not a valid option. Quotes, closing parenthesis, and we are golden. And enter, and over here. And then maybe we'll do another print statement, just for an extra line, a blank white space line. And then we'll do print. and we'll do double quotes. Thank you for playing. Space, double quotes, space, and remember plus sign is used for concatenation in Python, plus, and we'll just do name and closing parentheses. That's it. All right, thank you for playing, whatever your name is. All right, let's run it. Run module. So this will be the first time we're saving it, and we're going to save it here under whatever folder you want. I'm putting it under beginner Python, and I'll just call it adventure game. Hit enter or .py. You don't have to put .py. Oh, I lost my thing. So adventure game and all Python programs end with the extension .py. But since I have save as type as Python files, I don't really have to put the .py in there. So I save it, and then it runs. And there it is. What is your name? Well, my name is Scott. Hit enter. Welcome, Scott, to your adventure. You're on a dirt road. It has come to an end, and you can go left or right. Enter left or right. All right, so I'll try left. Come to a river. You walk around it or swim across it. I think I'll go walk. You walked for miles, ran out of water. I spelled water wrong, and lost the game. Thank you for playing, Scott. So you see how this is all played out? And now, normally you would, let's see, if we go back to our program, you would have to, normal procedures for developing a program is you would have to test out every one of these conditions, right? Let's say you have to make sure that the name that you enter gets put into this print line. You would have to test out when your answer is left, when your answer is swim, when your answer is walk, when your answer is not valid. Then you'd have to test for right, and inside of right, you test for back, test for cross, you test for not valid, and you test instead of left or right, you test for invalid here. And just make sure that this this last print line that says thank you for playing plus your name, that actually comes out well also. So there's a whole bunch of, the more conditionals you have, the more you have to test out your program to make sure that everything is being covered, every condition is covered, and it's worded the way you want. You have to look for, you want to look for typos, like I spelled water wrong somewhere, right here. I spelled it W-T-E-R, so added A. Just make sure all many miles, I'm missing an A there. Just make sure everything's spelled out correctly, everything's spaced right, and it's looking good. So that is how you do an adventure game, and you can add all kinds of other conditions inside, and you nested ifs inside of another if. There's just a whole bunch of options that you could add to the game. And so this has been a class on beginner Python games. We went over the quiz game, and we went over the choose your own adventure game. And so I hope you learned some basic Python concepts, like how to add a comment with a hashtag, how to create a variable, and how to use the input statement to gather up user input and load those values into a variable, how to use the print line, how to concatenate strings with values, with variables, um, and how to do a little bit of math by in the first game. In the quiz game, we did a little math, adding to our score, and coming up with a percentage of the answers that you got right. So this is the very fundamental Python concepts, and so I hope you enjoyed the class. And just remember to use Python. All you have to do is go out to python.org, download the latest version of Python, and in your download, it'll include the Python shell and the test editor idle that we use to develop our programs in Python. So my name is Scott Bartow. This class has been offered to you by the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. And thanks very much for joining me. I hope to have you join some of my other classes in the future. Thanks again.